Welcome to Fred with Mr. Nice Guy. I'm your host, MNG, and today I got a good one for you. We're talking about boundaries. Now, if you think about some of the things I said in the previous episodes about boundaries, which is when you set the boundary, you set the standard. That is true, okay? And we want to make sure as we go through life and when we go through the relationships, even when we talking about, talking about the mother and everything, we want to make sure we set the boundary. But before we do that, make sure you go ahead and you like, subscribe, and you go ahead and share our content and check out some of our other videos. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, when we're talking about setting the boundary and it sets the standards, when you put that boundary in place, people already know where you're coming from. They already know what it is. Now, you can do this in personal relationships. You can do this in monogamous relationships, polygamy relationships, whatever relationship you have, you can go ahead and you can set that boundary. And you can also do it within your work parameters as well, or your work environment. You can do it there too, because people at work, they may want to be your friend, but sometimes they can also be your enemy. They can definitely be your frenemy. So you don't even really want to deal or have those issues at the job. So let's talk about why it's important to have these boundaries. It's to maintain a level of peace, inner peace, less stress. You gotta think about it like this: the less people know, the less people can talk about you, can gossip, rumors get started. So you want to be very mindful of the conversations that you have with people and what you share with people. Now, that goes for family, that goes for friends, and that goes for your coworkers. That even goes for your boss. You don't want to tell your job everything that you're doing, because then they're going to try to use that to lock you into your job, and knowing that they can apply more pressure on you to do more work. They can keep you working harder, and put more pressure on you so you can't leave. And if you tried to leave, it would be difficult because they already know what's going on with you, so they can apply that pressure. They know that you're hurting for money. They're going to apply that pressure to you. They're going to apply more work on your back, because they know that, hey, not only can you not afford to leave, but you're going to take this, let's just call it this additional workload or abuse, this additional workload for the rest of the duration that they can go ahead and do it to you. And whether it's until you retire or until you just up and just quit. Okay. Now, the reason I'm so gung-ho about this boundary and the boundary and standard is because even when I was raising my son, I made sure that there were certain boundaries I had in place with his mother, and that will always set the standard going forward. So there was no conversation about where I lived. There was no conversation about who I dated. There was no conversation about where I worked. And I maintained those type of boundaries because I had primary custody. We had a meetup location, so you didn't need to know where I lived. We had other things in place where if you wanted to see him or you wanted to take him for the weekend, either I can drop him off, and most of the time, sometimes I was generous. I dropped him off at whatever location was there. I would do that. But in hindsight, I would not overshare a lot of things that was going on in my life, because that creates a lot more chaos when people know everything that you're going through, and they can use that information against you. So you want to be very mindful about what you share and how you share it. Now, we already talked about sharing too much at work to where they can apply more pressure on you, put more work on you, just because they know that you can't readily leave and you need those checks. So think about it, if you was in a financially secure place, it wouldn't even matter whether or not you even needed that job. It wouldn't even matter, because you would be able to go ahead and just leave, because you'll be financially secure to survive for 8 months, and you can walk away from jobs. Okay, you could walk away from the job and it wouldn't matter. But if the job knew that you were in you had financial debt, you had a mortgage, you had a car note, and you didn't have any kind of savings to put yourself in a place where you can survive for 6 months while you look for a job, then they're constantly just gonna keep piling work onto you. For everybody to have a relationship or have a baby daddy or baby mama or whatever you want to call it, the father of your kids, the mother of your kids. I try to be respectful, the mother of my kid, the mother of my child and everything. So when we look at those aspects, you want to set boundaries there too. For the ladies, let's be honest. As it's been stated, you are the gatekeeper of your body. But in those instances, you may want to set the boundary to not let your baby daddy come back and invade that space. Is it going to bring you any type of peace by doing that, or is it going to bring one night of satisfaction? And for men, we are the hunters, or whatever you want to put us in, that wants us to pursue particular women, and how the case is like that. Or when it comes to your baby mama or the mother of your kids, when you're having those conversations with them, you don't have to overshare. You don't have to share who you got. And then you may want to set the boundary as well as, hey, if the conversation is not about our child, then we don't need to have a conversation at all. If the conversation is not about their schooling, doctor's appointments, anything that involves the custody of who takes them this weekend, holidays, I don't want to talk about it. Leave the personal conversations alone. Just stick to the best benefit of the child. Because when you get into all those additional conversations, it never really pans out well for anybody. I took personal conversations to a whole new level. My son mother would share a lot of information with me. And me, I would take that information and I would go and use it in court. I would document and use it in court. That's what I did for information. It's like espionage for me. I need to get what I want out of the situation. And the only thing I'm trying to get out of the situation is the best benefit of my son. And if I feel or believe that you are not in the best situation or bringing the best benefit for our child, then the best goal would be for me to go ahead and take full custody. So if you're trying to take full custody and you're trying to seek not child support or anything, but you're just trying to seek more time, definitely want to be able to set the boundary. So either you don't share your information and you gather more information from them, or vice versa, however you want to do it. But I've always just maintained the idea of, I don't want you to know where I work at. I don't want you to know where I stay. And I don't want you to know who I'm dating, because it just brings me a peace of mind. And that boundary has been set ever since I had custody of my son at 3 years old. I have set that boundary. I have maintained that boundary. The only time that I let the boundary kind of slip is when I was probably moving out from the location that I was staying at, or I was leaving the job that I was at, and it will come out, but I'll be leaving the job, so it really didn't matter at that point to me. That's the only time I didn't care whether the boundaries was set at that point in time, because I was already moving on to something bigger and better, or I was moving on to a bigger and better apartment, or whatever the case is. But that's how I always looked at it. So, but even with my family members, there is a boundary that is placed, because there are certain conversations I just choose not to have with certain people, because some people don't bring positive conversation. Some people don't bring positive energy. So when you come against people that don't want to bring positive energy, I'm not going to have certain conversations with you. I'm not going to tell you about my dating life. I'm not going to tell you about any other of the business aspects or ventures that I want to be in, because you're not a pure supporter. And when you put that boundary right there, and once that boundary becomes a standard, nobody ever asks you about that again. Even if they want to ask you about it. I had a friend, this just recently happened, had asked me about dating, who I was dating. And I told them I wasn't dating anybody, because it wasn't their business for me it wasn't for me. It wasn't none of their business because I've had previous conversations with them, and the result wasn't always positive. You know, in their mind, we're going to be single forever. We're going to be two peas in a pod, single forever. And I don't see myself being single forever. I see myself, you know, being in a dedicated relationship. But in this instance, I didn't want to share the fact that I was dating somebody. I didn't want to share that I was pursuing somebody. It wasn't for me to share with this person because I knew that the conversation wasn't going to be positive. You know, there is something about some people that don't want to support the decisions that you make. Now, it's okay for them to see you fall. It's okay for them to see you alone. And it's okay for them to tell you what their opinion is, but not realizing that, you know, they're not in the same situation that you're in. Your situation is completely different from theirs. So you can't tell me how to live my life in the current climate and environment that we're in if we're not in the same situation. Now, you can probably provide some kind of guidance that I would take into consideration, which is what I tell people that provide me advice. You know, I'll take it into consideration. I'm not about to take it wholeheartedly because we're not even in the same situation, especially if you have a two-income household and you don't have any kids. You can't really advise me on anything. You can't advise me on really saving money because you don't understand some of the risks, I ain't gonna say risks, some of the financial implications that come with having a child. You know, you may have to go to the dentist and you think it's just about to be a routine dentist visit, but then you end up coming out $1,000 because your kid got cavities. But you see them brush their teeth every day, but they somehow meticulously came up with cavities. Or they wanna go ahead and they wanna try out some type of event that requires you to drive more or requires you to buy uniforms. Those type of costs and expenses come up, and sometimes they're sporadic, sometimes they're planned, sometimes they're voluntary, sometimes they're involuntary. I mean, there was a time where, you know, my son was in robotics and it cost me a little bit more in gas because of the activity would take up the rest of the night. So I would go home, I would leave work and go home, then I would have to leave home to come back down to pick him up and then go back home. So, you know, and that's something that he wants to do, but a person that don't have any kids and that's married, they can go to work, come home, and don't necessarily have to leave for the rest of the evening. So where I'm running back to pick my son up from school twice out of the week, you know, for this activity. So I can talk to him about it, but so far as, you know, giving me advice and everything, you know, sometimes it's just best not to just say, it's best to just keep that lifestyle separate. Like, let's talk about finances and investments. We can talk about all that stuff that's beneficial, but when it comes to talking about kids and everything, like, there's really no advisement on that. I don't think anybody that don't have kids should be able to advise people that have kids. Like, you don't have the necessary experience to kind of explain or tell somebody, you know, what should they be doing in a situation, because having kids, and anybody can disagree with me or agree with me, and I would hope everybody would agree, having kids is a completely different experience. Like, having kids, it just propels you into a different realm of responsibility, you know, financial benefits, tax benefits, and everything. So when it comes to having those kids, you know, it's just a different realm. So when somebody that doesn't have kids try to and I'm really big on this because I've had a few people that don't have kids try to explain to me about kids. I just kind of looked at them like, well, you can't really tell me how to kind of maneuver with money because you don't have kids, so you don't understand the unexpected and surprise costs that come along with it. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. Like, when it comes, and I know I'm kind of talking or whatnot. But when it comes to boundaries, and there are some healthy boundaries. There's not, and I want you to think that all boundaries are negative. Like, there are some healthy boundaries. So when we talk about healthy boundaries, like, you can have healthy boundaries in a relationship. In a relationship, whether you're married or you're in a long-term relationship, or you just getting started in a relationship, some of the boundaries you can go ahead and maintain is, private time. I like to play video games. So when I'm playing video games, sometimes I want to be left alone, or sometimes I would like, the person I'm dating to be there. They could be in a room or they could be in a house, but they don't necessarily have to be up under me while I play video games or when I watch anime or any of that stuff that is occurring that I'm doing. So I would like to maintain some level of privacy or private time for myself. And I will want her to do the same thing. Have some private time for yourself. Do some things for you that help you. Like, you want to go get your nails done? Go get your nails done, but just don't expect me to come. Okay, I may come 1 or 2 times or whatever, but I'm not coming every time because you just want me to be there. I don't want to do that. If I want to go to the movies, I like horror movies. I want to go see horror movies sometimes. If you don't want to see the horror movie, that's fine. I'll go watch this horror movie by myself, or I'll go into, like my man cave and I'll watch my horror movie there. I'll do that. But, those are kind of healthy boundaries. Maintain who you are. Keep the lifestyle you had when you were single. Not lifestyle, but some of the things that you did when you were single, like going to play basketball, spending time with family and everything, where you're spending time with friends, where, when you didn't have anybody and you would go and do those things. I ain't saying go do single activities like go flirt with other women and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the group activities or some of the solo activities you may go do, like going swimming or whatever. You may did that solo. But maintain some of those activities and allow your partner to maintain some of those activities too. Those are healthy boundaries, because that lets that person still be an individual within a relationship, and you get to still be an individual within a relationship, but y'all can still come together and do things together. So y'all should both still have your individuality, but also be able to come together and do group activities together. So and I can be honest and say that I have failed in maintaining healthy boundaries in relationships, in friendships and everything. But through growth and awareness, I've been able to understand that when it comes to those healthy relationships, when it comes to having healthy relationships, and when it comes to having healthy boundaries, it's important to maintain your individuality from everybody else. You may have siblings that want to be up under you all the time. You may have siblings that want you to be part of their life all the time. But you have to maintain your individuality. I knew a person that actually I dated this person, and they were a twin. And during the time that I dated them, I noticed that because they're a twin, they were the particular twin that was not as strong as the other one. So if you know anything about twins, and I know this because even because there's twins that run in my family, so I've seen it firsthand. There's always a strong twin, and there's always I want to say weak twin, but we just gonna say weak twin just for the sake of words. So you have a strong twin, you have a weak twin, or you have an introverted twin, you have a very outgoing twin. So the outgoing twin is very outgoing out there, and then you have the very introverted twin. And again, I know sets of twins, they're in my family, and I can see the difference. I've read about it as well. So in this instance, I had dated a young lady, so I had the very introverted twin, and then the other twin was very outgoing, very strong-minded and everything. And this particular twin would apply pressure onto, or require so much time of the younger twin or the introverted twin to benefit them for as long as they wanted to, and it was always like that. And you could also kind of see a little bit of the bullying, a little bit of everything. And and I made light of this, and I was like, hey, you're not maintaining. Basically, the conversation was you're not maintaining your individuality. Your individuality is consumed by your outgoing twin. And they argued it, and they argued it, and they argued it from time to time, and eventually, I don't know, after we had went our separate ways, I don't know what have became of her and her situation. I've heard rumors or whatever like that, but and I'm not gonna get into the rumors, but if you want to know, hit me in the comments. You want to know, I'll tell you in the comments. But what ended up occurring is, after we went our separate ways, how the case is, it was rumors that some other stuff had occurred or whatever like that. But I say that to say that when it comes to individuality, you want to maintain a level of individuality. Whether you're twins or not, you want to maintain a level of individuality of who you are. Even with my siblings, we all maintain our individuality, and we all still come together and hang out, but we all can hang without each other and then come together and hang together. Even in relationships, it's maintaining that level of individuality, who you want to be without this person, and the growth you want to have without this person, and the growth that you want to have with this person, because the growth that you have outside of the person can benefit the growth that you have with the person. So you want to be able to maintain that individuality, and I think that's the greatest thing about boundaries, because when you start to put those boundaries in place, especially in the beginning of the relationship, it's not going to be anything new down the line. As long as you establish those things later on, and they already understand that, no, I know this person's going to play basketball and that's their time. Or I know this person's going to go hang out with their friends once a month. That's their time. I know this person is going to go and hang at the club but still come home to me. That's their time. If you want to be the type of person that plays video games, and then the person you with is sitting on the couch, watching a movie, y'all still are in the same room and y'all are still together, but y'all still are doing y'all individual things. Y'all doing separate things. And I think that is the beauty of it all when it comes to maintaining boundaries and maintaining that type of self-awareness when it comes to individuality. You want to be an individual, and you want to be able to set those boundaries with everyone. Whether you meet new people or whatever, whether it's regarding information, or whether it is regarding a particular person, or whether it is a relationship, learn how to set boundaries. And it's going to be very tough in the beginning because it's already ingrained in you to be who you are. But sometimes, you have to just set boundaries with certain people, because everybody is not out for your best benefit. A lot of people are out here to take, not even a lot, there are some people out here that is willing to take more from you than they are willing to give. And you have to be mindful of those that are willing to give to you and help you grow and excel to go to the next level, and those that are willing to take from you and don't want to see you succeed, don't want to see you excel to the next level, don't want to see you become the best version of yourself. There are individuals that want to see you fail on all levels. No matter what level it is, they want to see you fail. So it's imperative that you maintain the boundaries and let that be the standard. And then you determine how you want to alter the boundary later on to where you want to kind of let them in and get a little closer, or you want to keep them a little further away. But that's all up to you. But I done talked y'all ear off a little too long. I hope y'all see the t-shirt, the Pharaoh Mr. Nice Guy t-shirt. Also, we in the new scenery. It was a little hot upstairs, so we came down here into the basement. So this the basement, this the MNG basement today. But hey, make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, you share our content, and we'll see you on the next go. Peace.